Good day everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between support and resistance and supply and demand, and more importantly how that also links into the area of liquidity and also institutional stop hunts. So please stay tuned, we have quite a nice bit of information to get through. Okay, so starting off with the very basic definitions themselves, what support and resistance basically is just a level in price where price has traditionally reversed before. So we can just see a nice example of this if we just go out on the 1 hour here. So if we take a look here, it's very easy to identify support and resistance lines. So we just take a quick look here at, say, this range right here. We can draw a nice horizontal line just there, sort of connecting the lows. So this is a very clear support line that we can sort of see. It's a level in price right around there, 1794. We've seen price come down many times and then reverse to the upside. And similarly, we can draw a resistance line just like this. And why is this important to know? First of all, it's because a lot of people just trade this as their simple strategy. And I mean, if you're very disciplined, just trading SR definitely works. You can take a sell, 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 and even though you lose here, you definitely still profited overall if you're not just disciplined. But that is support and resistance, just levels in price where traditionally we've seen reversals happen. But this is where we have a key difference between support and resistance and SD, because what SD zones are, although they might look to be in similar places, SD zones are actually blocks, so order blocks that just contain high volume orders, buy limits, sell limits, take profits, stop losses, all of these, and they are fresh zones. I like to trade fresh zones, so traditionally I like to see my SD zones. I like them to be fresh, so it's fresh zones in price that we have, or where we have a lot of high power volume order limits. And the way I identify my order blocks is using indecision and volume, and there are quite a few ways you can go about doing that. But that is just the way that I use and the way that I teach. So here we can see a nice example of support and resistance, those levels that we see reversals. But here we have an actual supply block, for example. We have our indecision there, a nice outgoing volume. These are obviously sort of new spikes most likely, so there we can sort of ignore those. But nice outgoing volume there from that indecision area together with that powerful bearish drop. And then similarly here we came up, so just a huge volume drop as well. I think I've talked about this either on my Instagram, a YouTube video, or in Discord. I've definitely talked about this setup at some point because it was covered in the Discord somewhere. But we're actually now going to move on to what I think is the more important part in how you actually apply these. So as I said already, trading SR is something that a lot of retail traders do just because if you now are disciplined, it definitely works. So there's nothing wrong with using that as your approach. But before we see these major markups and markdowns, what traditionally happens then are what are called liquidity grabs, which are basically moves past support and resistance lines most often. Because this is where a lot of retail traders will have their stop losses. So them getting stopped out is just a way for these larger players who want to put in larger volume orders to sort of pick up their orders from the liquidity that is then made available through them getting stopped out. And I have talked a lot about this in this video already, so I'm going to be linking this one since it includes a nice example of another setup using this idea. But we also have this diagram here which was also in that video to basically just summarize this idea here. But what we generally have, and here we can see the clear difference between, say, a support line and then a demand block, is that we will have these it's common that we see these areas of just a slow movement before we actually come into a demand or a supply block. And what this does is like we actually automatically form a set of lows and highs, which then are our support and resistance line. So we can see here we have that level in price where we traditionally reversed, but then we have our demand block down here, and obviously indecision is not included there, but this is our demand block. And then what commonly happens then is we will have a lot of retail traders buying there, and then for these institutions to then put in that really big volume order, since they don't have access, or I mean, like to put in such a big volume order, you need access to a lot more liquidity than what is available on the M24 trading app, for example. So you will need to have a lot of actual sellers so they can actually pick up the large amount of buys that they want. and then we then see that big markup in this case, and then obviously it would have been a markdown if this would have been a supply block instead. But we can take a look at a nice example here, because this was an example that was actually shared in the Discord right here. I'm just gonna bring it up. Where is it? Okay, yeah, so it was just there 10th of August, 11 days ago. So we had this nice 15-minute demand block. So I'm just gonna go back out on the 15-minute. So yeah, identify that demand block there for indecision and outgoing volume. So that was very clear. And when the market actually opened, we had already seen quite a nice bit of movement. So we had sort of, if you can picture this as a bit of a resistance, since we had those wicks kind of coming into there and eventually broke past that. And then we can we had those lows there. So this is kind of a resistance turn support as well. So we have like a support line going there, and definitely after an indecisive candle like this, seeing huge wicks to both sides, I would say probably close to everyone who would be trading SR would have bought here. But then after that, we saw a nice quick dump of just around like 60 pips or so, very likely stopping out a lot of people there, and then into our demand block very nicely, just essentially filling it completely past the middle, and then a nice engulfing candle to follow. And then from there, price just continued to push up and up and up. And I mean, I obviously didn't target these very highs there. I had my target, was it 53, I think? Let's see here. Just there 53, coming into that kind of redistribution area right there towards 1760, but still a nice sort of 300 pip trade. And I mean, we kind of have the exact same thing here, exactly if we just take a look at it here. Have a nice bit of retail support resistance, not anywhere near as clean, but kind of a wicks there, support there. Probably had a lot of people buying, most likely even there, and then nice crash below into demand block, and then came up there. So it's kind of clear to see the difference between SR like that when you sort of look at them together, but that is really the difference it is altogether. SR is just points where we have traditionally seen reversals, whereas SD zones are just high power, fresh order blocks containing, say, buy limits, sell limits, and all of this. And they can occur at similar points. That is very obviously the case, since they're both kind of used to trade reversals. But there is a very nice distinction. They're definitely not the same thing. And I hope this video made it a little bit clearer. And I'm going to be linking this one as well, as I said, just for an additional example. But as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below or contact me directly on Instagram or Discord. And if you haven't already seen these videos regarding this trade here in the Discord, there are some videos here where I talk about it somewhere. I don't know exactly which one, but make sure you check these out, because they all have some nice takeaways. At least I try to have that as my focus with each video that I release. But as always, enjoy your weekend. Make sure you take some time off, practice, and be ready on Monday. And I wish all of you the best of luck.